We're just waiting for lights out. And we are officially underway at Monza. And interesting enough, Farmer Ginge going, oh, and we've already got contact in turn one. McLaren gets turned by Muffin Brand. And we've got the entire grid slowing down and everyone is shuffling around. Everything is just mayhem right now. It looks like just the limited contact there between Muffin Brand and McLaren, and we stay green at the moment. And it looks like the Alpine of, I believe that was Original Pauly, having some difficulty getting back onto the racing surface.
Oof.
And Daniel Bontempo will get a 5-second penalty for corner cutting. Looked like to avoid a collision there.
We got another collision. It is with Daniel Bontempo around and dropping way back.
Yeah, and it looked like Daniel Bontempo got the 5-second penalty for cutting the chicane there at turn 2, and McLaren has slowed way down as well. He's dropped all the way to 16th, and it looks like Jay Cokes in the Mercedes also dropping back. Meanwhile, Scavenger in the McLaren now 4.5 seconds out and climbing drastically. Meanwhile, Lieutenant Spartacus in the Alpine battling for second with Coffee Black in the Haas. Coffee Black goes by, and we've got an incident in the Ascari chicane. And that is going to be the Alfa Romeo of Wubby's 210. Doesn't look like anything major here. And it looks like we are going to stay green at the moment. So a lot of action here on the opening lap.
Really very quickly.
And we've got a three-way battle here for second place. Ishkabibble has taken over second. Coffee Black's dropped back to third. And Link's Worst Nightmare has joined the battle here as Farmer Ginge and Muffin Brand have faded back to 6th and 7th here. Farmer Ginge and Original Pauly, the only two with the hard compound tires, as General Whitney gets a 3-second penalty for corner cutting. The Alpine of Lieutenant Spartacus and the Mercedes of Jay Cokes have gone into pit. And it looks like Spartacus will come back out on softs and Jay Cokes will come out on the hard. And now towards the back of the field here, we've got Daniel Bontempo, as you can see, raising his hand at the Red Bull of General Whitney. Just some minor contact coming out of the second chicane at turns 4 and 5.
As Parky runs a little wide there and falls back a little bit.
Now a three-way battle starting to develop for 7th place between the McLaren of Muffin Brand, F1 Original Pauly, and the Alpine. And it looks like Farmer Ginge is out. He is crashed at the exit of turn 10 at the Ascari, and we have a safety car.
Oh, yes, definitely a bad one there. Front wing and left front tire gone.
So our first retirement of the evening is going to be that of Farmer Ginge in the Haas. And here at the start of lap 3, let's take a look and see what we have as far as position changes at the moment. And General Whitney getting a 5-second penalty for speeding into pit lane now. So Scavenger remains out front. The big jumps are going to be the Red Bull of Ishkabibble, who's up 8 spots into second. The Haas of Coffee Black up 5 spots in third. Link's Worst Nightmare in the Alfa Romeo is up 2 into fourth. Stribs 88 in the Aston Martin has gained 9 positions in 5th currently. Meanwhile, Muffin Brand has dropped 3 spots into 6th. Original Pauly's gained 5 into 7th. And our big dropper right now is that of McLaren, who started 2nd and is currently in 12th.
That is quite tough. It should be noted, the McLaren just switched to hard compound tires.
And another thing to note here, Tegan has gained 9 spots, currently sitting in 9th, and Parky 8 in the Ferrari, currently 10th, has gained 6 spots. So we've seen a lot of shuffling around as Jay Cokes in 17th, started in, 8 spots up from where he's at currently. And we're still waiting for our safety car queue to form up here. And it looks like it should happen this time by still a 6-second gap between Scavenger and Ishkabibble at the moment, even under safety car.
And it looks like Scavenger is coming up on the safety car now, so we'll start forming the queue.
And it's going to be interesting here while we're under safety car. I do want to mention next week's race in Singapore. That's going to be a little bit of an interesting one for me. I don't know. Are you going to be with me next week, Emu?
I certainly will be here next week.
Cool, because I have a feeling you're going to be doing a lot of the talking next Saturday. Because I am participating in the iRacing Roar at Daytona on Saturday, which is a 2.5-hour race. A non-team event that'll be streamed live here on Twitch as well on the channel. Not sure exactly which time slot I'm going to try for just yet. Still waiting on which time frames are going to be the official ones, but we'll see how that goes.
All right. Be excited to see that stream.
So that'll be 2.5 hours from Daytona Road Course in the GT4 class specifically.
Very nice.
And we have almost the entire grid formed up for the safety car queue. It looks like Link's Worst Nightmare hugging the inside line. Was almost wondering if he was going to try to pit there kind of late here under the safety car, but doesn't look like it.
Does not look like it. It looks like we're going to go at least one more lap under safety car as Jay Cokes is quickly trying to catch back up to the line.
And while we're under safety car here, let's go ahead and run that ad because we're a few minutes away from the next ad anyway. Well, actually, we're going to go ahead and skip over that. Farmer Ginge, just saw your message in chat. Welcome into the channel. I'll see if I can. A little difficult to go back and forth between. And Azteca, welcome into the stream as well. If you're still hanging out, happy to see you back this week.
Thank you guys for stopping by.
And there is our race control letting us know safety car is in this time. So we are going to go back green here this time by as Scavenger continues to lead the way here. So we'll be restarting the race on lap 6 officially. Scavenger currently throttle controlled. Little shuffling around there. Looks like there was a little bit of hesitation from Scavenger there. Not sure if there were still some throttle control issues, but he will lead us to the line. There is no overtaking before the start finish line for anyone. And Scavenger will officially lead us into turn 1, followed closely by the Red Bull of Ishkabibble and the Haas of Coffee Black, followed even closer by the Alfa Romeo of Link's Worst Nightmare. And now some shuffling around going on kind of mid front field here. F1 Original Polly overtakes the Aston Martin of Stribs88, who goes wide at the second chicane there, the exit of turn 5, and he will lose several spots. Muffin Brand, Moises, and Tegan all moving up one as Stribs has dropped from 6th to 9th in just one corner.
Oof. Tough go there. These tires, some of these guys will have very cold tires and have difficulty for at least the first lap. You gotta be careful.
And right now, this is one of our closest battles on track. This for third place. Haas of Coffee Black is currently leading the way through turn 11 of the Alfa Romeo of Link's Worst Nightmare. Meanwhile, Stribs88 dropping back again, now in 10th place to Lieutenant Spartacus. Scavenger sets the fast lap of a 1:24.394. And Daniel Bontempo is now in 17th.
Yeah, I was gonna say General Whitney and SD Bookie are having a good time with trading places here.
And this is going to get a little bit tricky coming into turn one. Oh, we've got a lockup there. That is the Alfa Romeo of Wubby's 210. And we're going to get some shuffling around here as Wubby's and SD Bookie swap spots. So SD Bookie will take over 14th. Jay Cokes and Daniel Bontempo momentarily swapping spots for 16th and 17th. Jay Cokes now moving his way through the field.
Ooh,
Oh, and Tegan.
like Tegan.
Yes, in fact, Tegan is having some difficulty there. Not sure if he had any contact or just spun out. And the Ferrari of Parky 8. It looks like Parky 8 may have some front wing damage. Yes, the front left vertical fin on the nose is gone. Let's see if we can see anything on Tegan here. It looks like his...
Tegan is good.
Yeah, I was going to say, it looks like Tegan's good with the onboard as he is back underway, trying to make his way around Wubby's 210. And will, in fact, make that just before the Ascari breaking point. And DRS is enabled this time by. Won't be able to use it until the exit of turn 7 as Muffin Brand make that Lieutenant Spartacus now, setting the fast lap of 1:23.864. And that will probably get broken this time by as well, with DRS now being enabled. And SD Bookie now taking a pit stop under green flag conditions and has dropped to 16th.
As Parky 8 comes in right behind him to get that wing repaired and gets a 5-second penalty on top of that for speeding in the pit lane.
And back out on track, Muffin Brand has lost third place to the Alfa Romeo of Link's Worst Nightmare and is trying to hold his own here as he's starting to kind of fade back a little bit, about half a second back here. But we'll see if he gets the DRS coming out of the next corner, though. Looks like he should be in a good position to do so, as is Coffee Black and Moises, who are about a second and a half behind him. Coffee Black may be missing out on it. No, it looks like he was within that 1 second gap before the line, so he does have it going down the straightaway.
And while that was going on, Daniel Bontempo deftly passed Jay Coates for 12.
And Muffin Brand, I don't know what just happened there, but Muffin Brand and Ish Kabibble are out, and it looks like almost separate incidents at the exit of turn 10. One going just straight into the outside wall, and the other basically spinning and going to the inside wall at this Scary chicane. And we have another safety car.
That is tough. Well, like you said at the beginning, turn 9 in the Ascari chicane complex is a tough one.
And not a big surprise here with the second safety car of the night here at the end of lap 8. We have some of our leaders officially coming in. Scavenger, Link's Worst Nightmare, Moises all coming in. Lieutenant Spartacus, Sribs 88, Wubby's 210 back in pit lane as well. So this is a huge turn of events here.
It certainly is, and it looks like a lot of the guys are choosing hard compound tires to go close to, if not all the way to the end of the race.
And I would not be surprised at this point with 27 laps versus 26 laps, because technically halfway on this race is 26 and a half, so it looks like the game has rounded up.
That it has.
But still at lap 9, coming to lap 10 here the next time by. Hey, Azteca, thanks for stopping by. Sorry, I didn't see your message till just now. Good luck in the Manufacturers Cup on Gran Turismo at the notorious Mount Panorama in Australia. So that'll be interesting here.
Definitely one of my favorite tracks.
And Muffin Brand, welcome into chat. Sorry to see your evening come to a abrupt end like that. Let's see if we can get someone in to the channel here. Hang on.
While we're waiting on Parky 8 to catch up with the safety car queue to end the lap, or start the green flag racing again. I'm guessing he should be there in time for this lap to have us go back to green flag racing.
Yeah, we should be able to see this more than likely at the end of this lap. Go back green. Definitely enough time for it to do so here.
And I just heard from Ishkabibble that it was a sausage curb that caught him.
And that's kind of what I was thinking, if I'm being honest. It seemed like that was kind of the case with where he went. I'm not sure what happened with Muffin Brand, though. We're going to try to pull at least one of them in and get their perspective on exactly what occurred.
Or, well, in this case, a curbed.
And there is our safety car in at the end of this lap. So we will see Coffee Black lead us back here to restart the race officially on lap 11. And joining us in the commentary here is going to be Muffin Brand, who we just saw have an incident here. Muffin Brand, welcome in, buddy.
Thank you.
So what exactly happened there? Because it looked like both you and Ishkabibble crashed out, but it looks like you guys didn't actually make contact?
No, we didn't make contact. I caught the inside of turn 10, and my setup's not the stablest on curbs. So, didn't like it.
Well, that explains why we saw your car just bullet straight into the barriers there, which explains the DNF, unfortunately.
Yeah, we were doing a lot of practice not hitting that curb, and we hit that curb anyways, so. We'll have to talk to the engineers about that one.
Oh, and SD Bookie getting a little bit loose there at the exit of turn 2. The back end kind of sliding around as he's come back out on some fresh soft tires. 3 laps on those officially here. And it looks like most of the field has opted for the hard tires here on the restart. And Muffin Brand, tell us, based off what you saw here, even though you DNF'd a little bit early in the race, how did you feel the pace was with everyone tonight?
Pace looked good. I was expecting to see the Red Bulls pull out ahead just on the with the not equal performance, like realistic performance. I think you're going to see Paulie take off here in stint 2. Overall, it was tight though. I mean, another person just went out there, same thing I did, more or less.
Yeah, it looks like General Whitney having the same difficulty with the curb there that his teammate Ishkabibble was having, and it looks like Whitney may be stuck. Nope, looks like he's reset. Just a momentary caution in the corner there, and we now have a 3-way battle developing for the race lead. And this is going to get a little dicey going into turn 1. And we had a little bit of smoke there, I believe, from original Paulie. And Daniel Bontempo is officially out as he is retired. And Stribs gets a 3-second penalty for corner cutting.
Ooh, this is turning into quite the event here.
And it does look like Daniel Bontempo did go into pit lane before retiring. So he will officially retire the car in the garage. Not sure what happened with Daniel, unfortunately. So we are down 4 cars here, almost halfway through the race.
Quite the turn of events here. It looks like the field's spreading out just a little bit right now. Exception of 1, 2, and 3.
And really, this is our close battle right now on track. It looks like Link's Worst Nightmare is trying to stay within Scavenger's DRS range for when it goes back at the end of the next lap here. And Daniel Bontempo officially out of the session for the evening. And McLaren in the AlphaTauri now about half a second back on Coffee Black.
Link's Worst Nightmare just had a little spincident in turn 11th.
And looks like Lieutenant Spartacus may have gotten caught up in that as well. He went very wide at turn 11, but Link's Worst Nightmare definitely getting the worst of it. I don't see any front wing damage to Link's Worst Nightmare, and he will officially rejoin in 12th and gets passed by Stribs 88 as he gets back up to speed. Meanwhile, back towards the front, Coffee Black holding off McLaren by about a tenth of a second.
Not anymore.
And this is getting
McLaren
very close.
McLaren makes the pass on the outside.
So McLaren will officially take over race lead for the first time this evening here.
And it looks like Coffee Black's going to have to come in fairly soon with 12 laps on his mediums.
And Wubby's 210 and the other Alfa Romeo having some difficulty there through the second chicane at 4 and 5.
Ooh, looks like Parky 8 and Sribs 88 are getting a little wild in turn 8.
Yeah, it looks
or
like...
Or 7, sorry.
Yeah, I was going to say, it looks like Parky 8 has dropped back to 12th, and Link's Worst Nightmare has regained 11th as Sribs 88 moves to 10th.
Yep.
And now we're seeing a battle starting to develop here for 7th. SD Bookie and the Aston Martin trying to defend the Alpine of Lieutenant Spartacus. A very close match between those two cars under under real performance here. Spartacus will have the DRS advantage going down the straightaway into turn 1.
And that certainly is quite an advantage with this long straight.
And Spartacus does make the overtake rather easily before turn 1. And Link's Worst Nightmare now trying to put the pressure on Sribs 88. About 4, and make that 0.5 of a second. Well, and Muffin Brand, since you're still with us here, how did you guys feel taking pole and third place to start the race tonight?
I was 0.2 down after turn 1, ended the lap 0.4 up on my previous lap, so I think another pole or a 1-2 was in place for that team. Yeah, it's tough sitting in this booth right now watching this race because I feel like there was a podium for sure, probably a 1-2, maybe a 2-3. You never know with McLaren, but yeah, it was a good qualifying session.
And it was definitely a surprise to see McLaren's towards the front here. We've not seen a whole lot of that this season, so it was a nice refresh to see the cars towards the front of the field to start the race. And it was definitely a wild start to the race with pretty much everyone behind Scavenger kind of getting mixed up with the contact for McLaren. And I believe, who did we say that was on the opening lap with McLaren?
Oof. I can't remember.
I think it was me. I got tied up.
Yeah,
with,
I think you're right.
I think it was me.
Yeah, there was a little bit of contact, but nothing major.
No, it was just little bumps. You come in with such high speed. I got a little bump on my back end. I bumped McLaren, and he went sideways, and then we got tied together for a second. So.
And just kind of looking across our field here, sorry about that, Emu, it looks like we are starting to see another battle here for 5th between the Mercedes of Jay Cokes and Lieutenant Spartacus in the Alpine. Spartacus does get by thanks to the DRS.
Indeed, but I'm also watching Scavenger staying right within about a half second of McLaren.
And at the end of the last lap, Coffee Black in the Haas did officially make his pit stop, so he is switched to hard tires.
As McLaren ducks into the pits to change out his hards.
And I expect we're going to see him come out on some medium tires. I believe he started on softs, so we will see what happens here for him. And it looks like F1 Original Paulie also into pit on 15 lap old hards, and Paulie is opting for the softs. I think it's a little bit of a gamble here. It's about 12 laps to the end of the race right now.
But if I remember correctly, Paulie is actually pretty good on worn softs.
That is a good probability.
He's been pretty good with them, so he definitely has a chance of keeping up, as it were, on those worn softs.
And Coffee Black, who was towards the front, has come back out into 12th place. He's already one lap in. McLaren, who was leading when he took his pit stop at the end of the last lap, is now in 11th, so he will have to make his way through the field. Let's take a look and see who still has yet to pit here. And it looks like Tegan is the only car running who's not made a pit stop. Lieutenant Spartacus and SD Bookie, both in the top 5, have made 2 pit stops so far. And McLaren has made 2 pit stops. Everyone else except Tegan has made at least 1 stop. So we'll see how this plays out here in the closing little section of the race. And Parky and Coffee Black both getting 3-second penalties for track limits.
Yeah, that's definitely not hard here.
And Parky
Jake,
8 and Coffee Black battling this for 11th.
as we have another trio heading into the pits here. SD Bookie, Jake Hoax, and Sribs. 88.
Well, Muffin, with the closing laps here, your teammate Scavenger is currently leading the way by a little over 4 seconds, and he does not need to make a pit stop, and he also has the fast lap of the evening at the moment. Based off your guys' strategy and coming into tonight, how are you feeling for him right now?
I think he's going to hold it. Moises is scary right now behind him. But the timing charts, I mean, I'm watching it at the intervals, and he keeps pulling away. I think he's got less downforce running, so he's pulling away on the straights.
Real quick there, Parky 8 going through the inside of the chicane at turn 4 and 5. And surprised he didn't get another penalty there, so likely getting a warning at least. But it looks like he did shave off some of his speed. And now he's got Coffee Black and Original Polly going by at the same time. Oh, and he made a little bit of contact, but I think that was netcode, because I don't see either of the other 2 cars reacting to that contact, and he was able to straighten it out relatively easily. So he is back underway, and Sribs 88 is now out. And we've got another safety car. So that is going to throw a wrench into the strategy here. And I suspect we're going to see Scavenger, Moises, and then obviously the likes of Lieutenant Spartacus, who actually just came in, all pitting here. So I have a feeling we're going to see a lot of cars coming into pit for the soft tires.
That we might, but I'm also looking at McLaren, who's on 2-lap-old mediums compared to the 9-lap-old hards on Scavenger and Moises. So that could definitely play a factor here in things.
Well, one thing to take into account too is the gap. Currently, Scavenger has about a 25-second gap to McLaren in third, so he should theoretically be able to hold the race lead even if he stops right now because of the slower pace under safety car.
True, but once the safety car queue forms up, they're all bunched back up again.
Indeed.
So it's definitely going to get quite exciting. And hopefully not in a crashy sort of way.
And currently Scavenger still holds the fast lap with a 1:23.545. We'll see if that holds up with this late safety car. And in fact, both Scavenger and Moises into pit. While we have an opportunity, let's take a look and see what our position changes look like. And look at that, Tegan in the Mercedes has gained 12 spots, currently in 6th. The question is, has he taken his pit stop yet? And it looks like, yes, he has. So he may be looking at driver of the day. And McLaren will pass his teammate to officially take over second. So Scavenger now has his hands full with the safety car queue getting ready to form up with both AlphaTauris right behind him.
Ugh. I don't want to be in his racing seat right now.
And looks like Tegan has, as things kind of reshuffle, he's come back into pit. So he's dropped down quite a bit now into 10th. And SD Bookie now is our big gainer. He has gained 10 spots, currently in 7th.
Quite the performance from that lad tonight.
And late in this one, we don't have really anyone who's lost a ton of positions. Link's Worst Nightmare and Coffee Black have both lost 2 spots, and that's about it. And everyone else on par or positive from where they started this evening, aside from those that are retired.
Aside from those, indeed.
In an interesting turn of events here, SD Bookie has opted to go onto hard tires.
I would suspect that's what he had left.
That's a very good probability. I don't know that it's going to play to his advantage this late in the race with this late safety car, so we'll see how that holds up. Moises does go to the soft tire, so he's on fresh softs. Meanwhile, Scavenger goes for the medium compound. I'm a little surprised unless he's out of softs. I don't know if you're aware of anything there, Muffin.
I'm not, to be honest. I don't think he saved a set.
And that could be exactly why we're seeing him on the mediums. He may not have anything left. And Tegan is back in 11th, has opted for the softs as well. So we'll see if this stays clean for the last few laps here. We still have at least one more lap under safety car.
That we do. As we're waiting on General Whitney to catch up with the field. Now, the thought occurs to me that it's quite an interesting play here. If Moises runs out of grip a little earlier than the mediums will, there's, both McLaren and Scavenger still have quite the chance.
Well, it's going to be interesting because with this late in the race, I think Moises isn't really too concerned about the longevity of the tires. Realistically, when we go back racing, we're going to have about 7 laps under green, and he will have done 2 laps under safety car at slower speeds, which means that the degradation should be much more minimal than under green flag conditions. So he might actually still have a good set of soft tires for the closing laps. I think he'll be right at that cusp of where he's going to be starting to lose some of that grip, though.
That's what I'm thinking. Put so eloquently by a doe. All right, looks like we have the field formed up. Will we get safety car in?
Well, we are coming up to the Ascari chicane, and there is safety car in. So Scavenger becomes throttle controlled here.
Let's...
Really interesting to see when he releases the pack, if it's after or before the corner.
Well, he's already lost quite a bit of ground to the safety car, so I think he's going to get the throttle control lifted here relatively soon. So we'll see what he does here as he gets ready to bring the grid back to green flag conditions.
Looks like I can pull.
And he is back up to speed. We are back to green. We'll see what happens here as Lieutenant Spartacus and Jay Cokes and Coffee Black and Wubby's 210 are all swapping spots. Original Polly drops to Jay Cokes as well. And looks like pretty much everyone making it through turn 1 relatively cleanly. No major incidents there, as McLaren still trying to close the gap and is using the slipstream to the most of his advantage, and he's looking to the inside, which will become the outside going into the second chicane. Scavenger leads the way. Oh, and McLaren almost gets into the back of him, and Moises has to check up a little bit to avoid contact with his teammate. Meanwhile, Scavenger goes through turn 6 and coming into turn 7, leading the way still. Ooh, and McLaren goes wide at the exit of turn 7, almost into the gravel. Loses a little bit of momentum there, but his teammate is still in his slipstream coming down the straightaway into the Ascari chicane. And everyone getting through Ascari cleanly here at the moment.
That they are.
And McLaren has dropped back to about 4/10 here and is starting to gain again coming into turn 11, but starts to fade back as Scavenger is opening that gap as Moises goes by his teammate of McLaren on the softs. Moises takes over fast lap, then Lieutenant Spartacus takes over with a 1:23.145. And we will get DRS at the next lap versus this lap here. Always the start of the third lap. Oh, and we've got a car around. It looks like that is going to be Wubby's 210 in the Alfa Romeo at the first chicane. Just an isolated incident. Meanwhile, Scavenger still trying to hold off the AlphaTauris going into the second chicane. Moises trying to make a move, but doesn't have the room and looks to the inside going into turn 6. And Moises will take over race lead on the softs. The question is, will those tires hold up for the final few laps as his teammate McLaren now tries to put the pressure on Scavenger, who's in an AlphaTauri sandwich?
DRS on the next straight.
Well, the DRS won't come into play until the exit of turn 7 on the next lap, because the line for the DRS to open is just before the finish line.
Link's worst nightmare is putting some heavy pressure on SD Bookie right now as they come out of the Ascari chicane.
And McLaren now at just shy of 2/10 there behind Scavenger. Scavenger about 3/10 back and gaining on Moises as Moises sets a new fast lap of 1:22.874 as Scavenger regains the race lead here going down the straightaway. And everyone getting through turn 1 cleanly. Still no major incidents here. Everyone kind of starting to spread out towards the back and middle of the field.
And Link's worst nightmare has currently moved up to 7th, passing, I believe, both SD Bookie and Coffee Black.
And Moises now starting to fade back on Scavenger. Not sure if he maybe just pushed a little too hard. He's at a half second back and losing ground. And his teammate McLaren in the other AlphaTauri on medium tires with 7 laps is starting to fade back on his teammate Moises, now at 8/10 and still dropping.
And it looks like Lieutenant Spartacus is staying pretty even or gaining a little bit on McLaren. Ooh, Link's worst nightmare gets a 3-second penalty for corner cutting.
And real quick, at the exit of the Ascari chicane at turn 10, McLaren ran wide and had to shave off speed, and he loses third place to the Alpine of Lieutenant Spartacus, who's now 1.5 seconds back on Moises. Scavenger now sets a new fast lap of 1:22.058, and DRS is now a factor here. As you can see, the wing is open on Moises going into turn 1.
And as we're doing that, Link makes the pass on F1 Original Poly as they come down the front straight.
And McLaren will retake third place from Lieutenant Spartacus at the exit of turn 2. And this is getting into...
Out of battery.
Who's almost out of battery there, Muffin?
Scavenger.
So Scavenger's pushing, not terribly surprised. I suspect we'll probably see at least him, if not Moises, both start to kind of conserve the battery a little bit here in the closing laps. It looks like Scavenger has a bit of battery still left on there, likely just from the braking and coasting that he's doing going through 6 and 7. But Moises has regained. Scavenger now with a 3-second penalty for track limits. I'm not sure where that happened because I didn't see him go off the racing surface, and now that's going to hurt his chances. So I'm not sure where the game's calling that he went off. That could be a netcode thing that we didn't see.
Looks like Teague in 2007 just made a pass on SD Bookie for 9th.
And Scavenger not really giving Moises much room to maneuver out there, but not doing anything dangerous.
Looks like McLaren ran into a little trouble there and has fallen back to 4th place behind Lieutenant Spartacus.
And it looks like we've got some troubles with Wubby's 210 back in 13th. He has lost the front right vertical fin on the nose, but he is back to racing, so we'll probably see him come in or try to tough it out. We'll see what happens here with the closing few laps as Moises has taken over race lead from Scavenger in the McLaren. Meanwhile, the other AlphaTauri of McLaren and Lieutenant Spartacus in the Alpine still looking to battle here for third place, both on medium tires.
Roughly the same age, I might add.
And Jay Coke's now starting to close the gap to McLaren now under a second. So if he can keep that under a second here at the exit of turn 11, he should be able to get DRS, but it looks like he's starting to fade back a little bit, so he may not get it here coming down the front straightaway. Meanwhile, McLaren will definitely have it on Lieutenant Spartacus here. And Scavenger and Moises yet changing positions again. Scavenger regains race lead as McLaren goes by Lieutenant Spartacus for third. And I have a feeling that's how we're going to probably finish this race out with 2 laps to go, is we're going to see Scavenger and Moises and then McLaren and Lieutenant Spartacus continue to shuffle here in the last 2 laps.
They are certainly putting on a wonderful show tonight.
And look at this, SD Bookie now trying to put the pressure on Original Paulie.
They certainly have been switching back and forth for the last 5 or 6 laps.
And Tegan is right behind SD Bookie as well, so we're starting to see a 3-way battle, and that will be for 8th place right now. Meanwhile, back towards the front here, Moises is gaining ground on Scavenger at 2.5 tenths in closing. And we're probably going to see him go by here. The question is, will he make the move? No, he doesn't going into turn 11. A smart move by Moises, if I say so, because that would have given Scavenger the DRS down the front straightaway if he'd gone by.
That it would have.
And we are officially on the final lap of the race. Moises takes over race lead with the assistance from the DRS. McLaren and Lieutenant Spartacus still battling it out. Spartacus looks to the inside at turn 1. Oh, and they lock up and touch. A little bit of contact, no major damage. Spartacus will go wide.
Ooh, 5-second penalty for Lieutenant Spartacus for a severe collision with McLaren.
And Lieutenant Spartacus will drop all the way to 6th. And look at this. Jay Cokes in the Mercedes now moves up into 4th. Link's Worst Nightmare to 5th. McLaren sits on the podium right now in 3rd. And I think this battle is going to come down to just Scavenger and Moises here as we come in through turn 6 and 7 now. And Scavenger will have the DRS advantage here.
That he will.
And it looks like Paulie having some difficulty at the second chicane there. Turns 4 and 5 getting turned around. He has dropped to 10th.
Jay Cokes also had some trouble and has dropped from 4th to 6th as he ran wide in turn 8.
And I think we are going to see Moises lead us to the line here. I don't know that Scavenger's going to have enough time. He dropped back at the exit of turn 6 going into the Ascari chicane to about half a second and still at about 4 tenths and losing ground. So I think Moises is going to win this one. And yes, he comes across the line followed by Scavenger. Even with the 3-second penalty for track limits, Scavenger should hold on to 2nd place. McLaren will come across in 3rd. Spartacus will have 5 seconds added to his time, currently sits in 6th. Jay Cokes comes across in 5th. Coffee Black 7th. SD Bookie in 8th. Tegan in 9th. And Paulie will come across in 10th. Followed closely by the Red Bull of General Whitney. Parky 8 will come across with a 5-second penalty unserved, but he should hold on to 12th. No, in fact, Wubbies will overtake with the penalty assistance there. So we will have our official results here in just a moment.
And SD Bookie, the game has selected him as driver of the day.
And here is our podium as AlphaTauri locks out the podium here in a 1-3 finish with Scavenger on 2nd place.
Brilliant performance by Scavenger, that is for sure.
So looking at our final results here with the penalties applied, Moises will take the race win for AlphaTauri. McLaren comes across 2nd. And AlphaTauri's McLaren will come across 3rd. Alfa Romeo's Link's Worst Nightmare comes across 4th. Jay Cokes for Mercedes in 5th. And rounding out our top 10 will be the Alpine of Lieutenant Spartacus, the Haas of Coffee Black, the Aston Martin of SD Bookie, the Mercedes of Tegan, and the Alpine of Original Paulie. And a turn of events for several drivers as Farmer Ginge, Muffin Brand, Ishkabibble, Daniel Bon Tempo, all DNF, as well as Sribs 88. So a plethora of DNFs here from Monza, Muffin, and Emu. I do want to say thanks for joining me in the commentary booth this evening. Muffin, better luck next week in Singapore, and thanks for joining us.
Thanks, guys. That was fun. We'll see you guys in Singapore.
All right, look forward to it. Thank you.
And with that, thank you for joining me this evening here for another installment of F1 League Night.